Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who's out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hi, welcome to the podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and welcome. Again, welcome. 3 welcomes. Haven't put one of these up in about a week. I got a little behind. Life kind of took a left turn, and now I'm back. And I'm really happy about this interview that I just did with Glenna Lea-Citron, who is a spiritual psychologist. Now, I did not know what that was, and she's going to explain it. Kind of like a real, regular old psychologist. Not that she's not real, because she's very real. With a little bit more of a spiritual, soulful bent to it, and a wonderful person, and I did not know her, had never spoken to her, and we hooked this thing up on Skype, of all places. My friend Al has been talking to her for many years, and he said she would be great for your podcast, and he was right. So I called her up. She said, yeah, let's do this thing, and did not know her, had never done an interview on Skype, so it was a lot of unknowns, and it worked out really well. And so check out this interview, spiritual psychologist Glenna Lea-Citron. The first question I want to ask you, explain what spiritual psychology is as opposed to regular psychology. I think everybody knows what that is or has an idea. Tell me what the difference is. And I know you call yourself a practitioner of spiritual psychology, so explain those things to me because I'm not clear yet.
All right, I'll try to represent what it is by using words that I learned from Drs. Ron and Mary Hulnick from University of Santa Monica. I remember the night that I went to their information night, and they said that spiritual psychology puts the soul back into psychology. And they mentioned that they work from the standpoint that all of us have an authentic self that is all love and exists in perpetual bliss. And what keeps us from living life from that place is unresolved issues. So the education there is to learn how to resolve those issues. So that's what we do in spiritual psychology. We take counseling techniques that are common to other psychologists and approach from this basis of the client already having this authentic self and able to access whatever they need to be able to resolve their issues within themselves.
So let's say somebody comes to you. We'll just pick a big issue like I walk around in fear all day long. I'm afraid of everything, people, situations. How would you, let's say, deal with that issue a little differently than maybe somebody else?
Well, I have a hard time knowing how somebody else would deal with it. And all I can do is bring my experience, my life experience, together with my education to get at what's under that fear. You know, what's your outlook on life that's producing that framework that makes everything look fearful? And we might investigate, when did you first start remembering feeling that way? how old were you? We might go back into your childhood in that way, but also it's gaining a framework in an outlook on the world to be able to see the universe as a friendly place.
So you're changing perception along with dealing with the actual issues at the core of the problem.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's all about perception.
And when you say, because I'm fascinated by the aspect of that the universe in its essence is a loving place. A lot of people don't probably feel that way. But I mean, I certainly do, but sometimes I feel really removed from that with the day-to-day kind of living. Are there techniques that you might suggest to people in order to focus more on that aspect? Because, maybe when you're meditating or when things are going your way or when you're alone, it's a lot easier than when you're moving around in the material world all day long. You're being subject to lots of stimulus that would almost fight those feelings.
Right. It looks very real. What I found, though, is that what you would call the material world is kind of malleable, that it really responds to thought. And what seems like is all out there could actually be a projection of what's in here. So that's really the place to work. That's where you have the leverage. What do I have control over? Well, I have control over the way I think and the way I choose to respond to this stimulus that seems to be outside of me.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. It's one of those things where it's an interesting thing because some days that's actually pretty easy to do when you're, I don't know, I want to say in the right place, or when when you're in a certain state. And then other days it seems so impossible. Like everything seems to be an irritant rather than just something to sort of blow by you. Yeah.
And that's one thing. You talked about techniques. That's one thing that's so powerful about intention setting. Like, what is your intention for your life or for your day or for that hour, or for that half hour, or that project, or being very clear about your intention and how you intend to relate to what you encounter.
I have a friend that as a joke, he says it as a joke, you'll say to him, "Have a nice day," and he'll say, "Thank you, but I have other plans."
Okay.
It's kind of what you're saying. The intent is, I'm thinking that I'm going to have not such a great day. I mean, he says it as a joke, but it is kind of true. I mean, sometimes I have to reset multiple times in a day.
We all do. But it's a very powerful exercise to think ahead. What's the experience I want to have? How do I want to feel inside myself?
And how do you work with a client on that? Do you have a specific type of exercise that you give them, or you just say set your intent and it's all okay? I'm going to have a good day today, or is it try this meditation, or is it some other type of suggestion that you might have for somebody? Let's say that's a really difficult thing for somebody, and I say to you, how do I, give me some help. I need some help in setting my intention. How would you do that?
Well, I guess I would, as far as intention thing, I guess I would just ask, what is your intention?
Okay.
All right, let's do it. So what is your intention, Bob, for this interview?
My intention for this interview is to find out more information about what you do, to have a few laughs along the way, to become a little more aware of myself. I'm doing the podcast, but I also, it's for other people, but honestly, it's a lot for me too.
Sure.
I mean, one of the reasons I'm doing it is I have enough difficulties with positive attitude myself that doing a podcast about positive types of activities and people who are living positive lives helps me to stay on that track. Otherwise, I may. I always say my default setting is not positivity. It's a little more on the negative side by training, and comfort and all those things. So, that's my intention is to grow a little bit, maybe learn something, and have a good time while I'm doing it.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful intention. So what I'm hearing is that you want to grow, you want to learn, you want to have a good time.
Yeah.
You want to get something out of it for yourself and share with others.
Yes.
So how are we doing so far?
Oh, there's the laugh right there. I guess we're doing pretty good.
Good.
Yeah. Now, how did you become involved in this? I know you said you went to classes at the University of Santa Monica, which is kind of like a spiritual bent. Is it a university? It's a school? Exactly what is it? I know that they have workshops there for different
at
things.
the time I was there, they offered master's degrees in spiritual psychology. And since I graduated, there have been some new requirements for those schools that are accredited,
Mm-hmm.
that demanded that for the university to have continued to offer master's degrees, they would have had to change the curriculum so significantly that they decided to just stop offering master's degrees. So now I think it's a year-long program as opposed to a 2-year degree program. And there's a lot of online component to the program. But essentially they're teaching the same communication skills, the same sort of ideas that I learned when I was there.
And you've been
continuum.
Okay. And you've been doing this how long?
Well, I graduated in 2010.
Oh, okay.
And I took my first client that year.
Okay, so about 7 years.
Oh.
What led you? Okay, so before 2010, what was your life like, and what drew you to wanting to do this?
I have always been, always, ever since I can remember, I've always wanted to know God. I've always wanted to help people. I've always wanted to live my prayers, and so I've always been a seeker for truth. And so I was raised in Christian Science.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I was raised to rely on prayer for healing. And so that's my favorite modality for addressing any challenge is through prayer. And Christian Science is a beautiful metaphysical teaching, and it's very absolute. It starts with, if God is good, then all that God has made is good. And if it's not good, God didn't make it, and it's not real. So it's a very rational approach. And I got to a point where I as much as I love that, I still realized I had some unresolved issues, and I kind of wanted to address how to work with the human mind in a way that I maybe hadn't understood before. And so the education at USM was a perfect coming together of that desire.
Now, did you grow up in California?
No, I grew up in Texas, but moved here uh, as a young adult.
Okay, so your childhood was in what part of Texas?
Dallas.
Oh, okay, so a big city.
Do you recognize the accent?
Slight, slight. You seem to have lost most of it. I've been to Dallas many times. You know what they say when they say they want to know how you're doing? They say how y'all doing, and multiple people is all y'all.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's right.
Yeah. Yep.
How y'all doing? That's
You're
right.
And how's Jimmy and them?
If we keep talking that way, you'll be hearing the
Yeah.
accent more.
Was it a Christian Science community that you were raised in, or that was your parents and you were just in a sort of homogenous kind of multi?
Well, it was my parents.
Mhm.
My father's grandmother was a Christian Science practitioner, I think. And so, yeah, it was in the family for a long time. I went to church as a girl in Dallas, but I don't know if I could say, well, it wasn't like an intentional community, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I thought. Well, sometimes people of like faith will live near each other and have sort of a mini community within a larger
I didn't
community.
have that experience. I was always the only Christian Scientist in school.
Really?
Mhm.
And did that come up with your peers? And did they ask you a lot of questions, or were you, teased, or were you questioned in some sort of way, like suspiciously? Because usually, when somebody is something different than the other people, there can be issues around that for them that they have, especially as kids, because kids get very confused and they get nasty sometimes when they're in groups.
I never experienced that. I had one friend that was particularly, or maybe two, that were particularly curious, and we would have conversations about God. But it was more like, well, what about this? And well, how do you think about that? Usually, the most common question a Christian Scientist gets is, what happens if you have an appendicitis?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why
Yeah.
appendicitis is the one.
Yeah.
But
So it's not using doctors. Is that part of it?
well, yes, but it's more like using prayer
Yes.
instead.
It's not what you're not doing, it's what you are doing.
Right.
Yeah. No, I have a close friend. She's moved away, but she lived a few houses down, so I got pretty familiar with it. And
Oh, did you?
yeah, she had some remarkable skills, practitioner skills that I don't know where. I never really asked her how she came to know these things and study them. But
Well,
she could, if you were having, sometimes I had a number of times where I had some problems going on, and she would say, let's, about 10 o'clock tonight, why don't you just kind of lay down and I'm going to visit you and I'm going to pray. And I would do it and I would feel it. I mean, I could sense that something was going on. And I know a lot of people are pretty skeptical about that kind of thing, but I experienced it more than once. And I don't find those things unusual anymore. I don't find them odd. I find them quite beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of, I know, I'm actually even stammering a little because I know there's people that just are so skeptical of the things they can't quantify or see. And this is, I just, as I get older, I just find the universe infinitely more mysterious than I ever even imagined in my youth.
Wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Always more to learn about and more to discover.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like there's at this point there's almost, I don't disbelieve anything. I'm not sure I believe everything, but I don't disbelieve. I mean, there's so many
Probably wise.
Yeah, right. Just unexplained things. I don't know if I ever talked about this on this podcast. If I have, and somebody's heard it, I'm going to say it again, but I don't remember if I have. I remember my birth, and I'm going to tell you how I remember that. That's
quite unusual.
Yeah, and I've always sort of had that there, and I used to I've told a number of people over the years, and it was being in it was like being in one place that was kind of dark, and then all of a sudden this energy, this force pushed me into another place, and the first feeling was fear. The jarring fear of being pushed from one, or transferring from one place to another, and then the second thought was this huge internal laugh, really hearty internal laugh, and the thought, "Oh yeah, this again."
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I can't say anything other than that. That's just what I know happened. But I can't prove it. I can't go back there. I don't have a video of it. I don't. But that's so. I've always thought that there's something that I've been here before in some way, that I'm doing it again, and that it's pretty funny at the same time, and a little scary.
A huge internal laugh.
Yeah.
What a great expression.
Yeah. And I mean, as I've. Oh, you're getting a phone call.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. That can be edited out, but I probably will leave it in because it's human. Oh, take the call. I want to hear this.
I don't know.
Pick it up and say, "I'll call you back later."
I'll call you back. Sorry. I don't know this.
How would you like a timeshare in beautiful Laguna Beach? So now you do your work over the phone, you were telling me.
I do.
So do you have clients that you haven't physically been in their presence? It's all.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Wow.
Sure.
And you don't do Skype like we're doing right now.
I don't.
Uh-huh.
I find, at least for me, and I think my clients feel this way too, is that having just the audio it alleviates the distraction of the visual.
Yeah. Yeah, it would. You're just concentrating on the words, and also there's probably a certain freedom to the client to be emotional, and be a little more truthful because it's an unseen voice that they're talking to.
That frequently happens.
Yeah, you have a soothing voice.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You knew that, or that's the first you've heard?
I've had different reactions to my voice.
Yeah.
Some people find it that way. I did a master's degree in business, MBA, and we had a class called Human Behavior in Organizations. And at one point we were in a circle giving feedback to one another. And this one woman said, "I cannot stand your voice."
Oh my goodness, that's not very nice.
I just was okay. So yeah,
wow,
you never know what to expect.
That is some pretty outrageous thing to say to somebody.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it said more about her than.
Well, clearly, clearly, it triggered something that you sound exactly like fill in the blank. I would imagine.
Perhaps so. Yeah. I don't know.
Now, when I was, I used to love reading case studies in psychology.
Really?
Yeah, it was the only thing I liked about the classes that I took. I took a couple, and I sort of veered away from it. But I love when I would read case studies because you would see concrete, issues, treatment, and progress. That interested me because it was very, it's like reading music and hearing it. It's like hearing music. You're seeing, you're actually looking at the results. So and you don't have to if you don't have one, but I would love to hear just if you have one, a really interesting case of where someone, obviously no names, but where someone went from a certain way and a certain type of breakthrough and a result, whether it was quick or slow, like a big jump. I'm always sort of interested in people who are what I like to think of as maybe stuck or trapped, and they're freed in some large way. And if this, maybe you don't have one. I don't know, or maybe you have several.
Well, I do find my work is so rewarding because I'm able to witness the transformation. I'm able to witness the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. One client, when we began, was having such horrific panic attacks that she was throwing up and just was having a terrible time in her life. And over the course of the time that we worked, it was so beautiful to see her gaining a different outlook on her life, gaining a different outlook on herself, finding her joy, overcoming a disabling fear of flying, and flying to Europe,
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it.
Was it Erica Young? I mean, she wrote that book, Fear of Flying.
Oh no, I didn't.
No, but she's a public figure. That's why I said that. It was supposed to be a joke. I don't know, an obscure reference. I apologize.
No, yes, I'm okay.
Yeah, sorry. So she was able to go to Europe, having been afraid to fly.
Yeah, I'm going from disabled, really, by these panic attacks, to being able to travel alone.
And that's incredible. I mean, that's freedom. It's going from being trapped by your mind to being able to go. And what had transpired prior to the panic attacks? Was there some type of upbringing or incident that?
Sure. There were challenges. Yeah. But again, the idea was not that this was the kind of person she was, but that this was an opportunity for her to hear what was really true about her.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like she didn't believe that when she came in that there was some type of love and goodness. And then once that became a discovery, she was able to get rid of the fear. What is it, like a meeting somewhere, or it's not it's one
It's a workshop.
A workshop. So it's not one to one necessarily. It's like a
No, we work in trios.
Uh-huh.
Which is the same way that we work at the University of Santa Monica. One person is the client and one is the facilitator, and one is the neutral observer, and we'll work on an issue, and then we'll switch. So everybody gets a turn. And so it's like peer counseling within the framework of the principles of spiritual psychology.
Well, good for the prisons for saying okay to something like that. You wouldn't think that they would even be aware enough to say okay. Did you approach them as a group? How long ago? How long have you been doing it?
Well, there was one woman that was incarcerated, and I can't remember how she became aware of USM, but she wrote to the administrators there and asked if they could send somebody to the prison. And out of that request, a workshop was born, and I think they've been doing it now for 13 years, something like that. And it's become well enough known. This is so rewarding that now, if inmates have participated in our workshops and they go to for their review to see if they're eligible for parole, if they've participated, that's influential in whether or not they get granted their date to be released. So it's really worth their time to participate in it because it changes their lives.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. And what prisons do you do mostly in California?
In Chowchilla. CCW of California Correctional Women's Facility, and VSW Valley State Prison for Men.
Okay, so it's all federal prison, state and federal prisons. State prisons, yeah. I have one of the interviews I did. Actually, the first one I did was with a guy who does hospice and palliative care.
Wow. Yeah, I was a volunteer for hospice.
Yeah. Oh, you have? Okay. I want to talk to you about that in 1 second.
Okay.
But he was telling me he worked in Angola prison in Louisiana and with the warden, and they created a hospice within the prison for the prisoners that are dying, and how that and the prisoners took care of the other dying prisoners, because 80-90% of those people that go in there, they pass away in there because they're life sentences. A lot of them are in for life, and how that working with the dying had created a whole different atmosphere in the prison. That the closeness to death and to caring for somebody else reduced the violence and gave a lot of these men self-worth. They had to earn their job there, based on behavior and all that kind of stuff. But they had funeral services, and they had hospice care, and all kinds of things that they did, which changed the entire feel of the prison. My own sort of take on it is that as a society, particularly America, that we're kind of put death off to the side, where it's sort of removed from life as this bad thing that kind of happens at the end, rather than something that's integrated into life and part of it. Yeah. And I thought that maybe that them doing that and creating that in there was something that gave a certain meaning to the lives of these guys that knew they weren't going to get out.
Oh, it does. It gives great meaning to life. It's really an honor to be with someone in their last moments.
And do you do that? Where do you do your that hospice care?
I don't anymore.
Oh, okay.
Since I moved away from LA, I haven't done it.
Oh, okay.
But I did work through the Skirball.
Oh, okay.
Hospice and palliative care.
That's pretty amazing. I don't know. I don't know if I'm somebody that could do that. I guess I probably could do it.
Gosh, Bob, of course you could.
But
You have such a loving heart.
well, thank you for saying that. There's a part of it that, well, I'll just be super honest about this. It scares me. I don't want to catch death.
Well, that's interesting that you should admit that.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's my. I just sort of like said, well, why? Why wouldn't you do that? And that's kind of the reason. And I think I've been, you know, sort of, just by growing up here, like I was just saying, it's this kind of crummy thing that happens at the end. Although I don't know if I feel that way about myself necessarily. I mean, the idea of, particularly going back to my remembering being born, that I don't think it's really the end. I think it's just sort of the end of one little section, and then it keeps going again. And I don't say that as a way to, because I'm afraid to die and I want to be immortal. I don't really think that. I think it's just the way it is. Who knows? It's just a feeling, I guess, a sense of that. There's some sort of great wisdom that, a distant tune that we dance to that, is a lot wiser than any of us, and that it just makes sense to me. And am I tricking myself? I don't know.
Well, one of the best ways to deal with fear is to walk right into it. And when you're working with those who are dying, that's a way to deal with that fear.
Yeah.
Because I think when you let go of the fear, you can see the beauty.
Yeah, and I would imagine that being so close to it on a daily or weekly basis, that it would alter the way you live.
Well, that's right. And it can be a really holy experience. I had one patient who was a rabbi, and I did something called heart touch. It's a very, very gentle massage technique that you use on the dying. And I loved it because then the patient didn't have to talk, didn't have to do anything, didn't try to have to entertain me. I didn't have to entertain them, but it gave me a way to connect with them. And she had this beautiful garden where she liked to lie. It had a fountain, and it was just lovely and so peaceful. And I approached it so prayerfully and just was so gentle with her. It was a privilege. It was a really holy experience for me. And she knew the last time I saw her, she said, I don't think there'll be a need for you to come next week.
Oh,
And
so she knew.
She knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that numerous times where people just said things like that. Today's the day, tomorrow, it's like they know. That's, the big mystery.
She was so peaceful.
And when you say it was an actual garden, or it was something she visualized? There was
No, we're outside in her physical garden.
And you went out there with her into the garden? Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really lovely. It's a beautiful experience. Well,
wow.
Now that we've talked about it, maybe you never know. We've planted a seed.
Yeah. Maybe that's why this podcast happened today, huh?
Maybe so.
Yeah. Wow. I'm a little bit speechless.
Well, you just never know what good awaits you. Like every day, good is unfolding. Set your intention to be open and available for it. I remember after I I'm married now, but my uh, deceased husband, after he died, was kind of a challenging time. And I was praying about it one day, and the word romance came into my mind.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, romance? Well, I sure don't have that going on. So I looked it up in the dictionary, and there were 4 elements to romance. Would you like to know what they
Yeah,
are?
of course. I'm waiting.
Magic,
Magic,
mystery,
mystery,
love,
love,
and adventure.
adventure.
And I thought, I have a romance with life because it's magical how good things show up. And I never know. It's serendipity. And it's mysterious because it's the unknown. One day was not going to be the same as all the other days. And the love, well, that could be in my heart. I didn't have to go out there to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Just shine it, and the love would be there. And adventure, well, that's an attitude about life that any day can be an adventure. Oh, I don't know how I got off on that, but
I love it. This is today's adventure.
this is today.
Or one of them. Maybe there'll be another one after this.
That's right.
It's only 2:30. You got a whole night.
Woo! Yeah.
So how do people find you? Through word of mouth, I would imagine?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much that's the way.
So you're just talking to people and they're telling other people, you got to call her. And they call you up and things...
Sometimes people do and sometimes they don't.
Well, right, sure.
Sometimes they hear about me and they go, oh, I really need that, but they don't get around. And sometimes I'm not the right person. Like if there's someone who has, serious psychological problems that might need to be addressed with medication or something like that, I'm not qualified for that.
Right. Yeah, that's a special
Or
type of a...
if there's... I had one client that, as we worked, it brought up so much. She was just overwhelmed and didn't want to continue. So it wasn't her time. But if there's a compatibility and the right person for that time in a person's life, then I'm very patient to have the right ones come.
Yeah. And do you have, I'm sure there isn't a definitive amount of time that people talk to you, but do you have sort of a pattern that you see happening? Is it like a year? Is it 6 months for most people?
I always approach it as though we'll get everything resolved in this one session.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my. That's
Because
fantastic.
I always approach it that the client has everything they need for meeting their situation masterfully. And it tends to be ongoing for most clients, or at least for a period of time.
Yeah.
I think it when there's a sense of, gee, I'm really doing well, and I'd like to just call you on an as-needed basis, I'd be like, okay, good. We've done our job.
Yeah. It's, right.
But I always ask, do you want another session?
Yeah, well, it's...
Because I don't assume that. It's not, for me, it's not like a life coach where you got to sign up for 6 or 12 sessions or whatever, and it's going to be this amount of money. I charge on a sliding scale so that pretty much anybody could afford. So I just say, whatever is right for you.
Yeah. What a great way to help people and make a living at the same time, and you don't have to leave home if you don't want to.
I know.
Like in between clients, you can go have a snack in your own home.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah. Well, good for you for figuring that one out, because I'm sure a lot of people would love to be able to do that, whether it's doing what you do or something else. But just the idea of just being able to do something you love from your own home. It's fantastic.
Once I completed my degree, I didn't feel the need to go and get licensed and do that whole, because I would have had to take in some more classes and do all the hours. So that's why I call myself a practitioner.
Right. So you don't have to be a part of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm off the grid, so to speak.
Yeah, but that's if you're helping people, who cares about that, the other stuff. I mean, and obviously where your limitations are and what you can do and what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
It is great.
And you feel like you found the thing that you're probably gonna do for a really long time. That's the feeling I get from talking to you.
I can't imagine a time that I wouldn't want to be working with people.
Yeah.
And I love to see how people come and how they're drawn to this work. It's really part of the magic and mystery.
Yeah. I mean, I found you through a friend of mine who I knew from the comedy world from 30 years ago when I was a comedian.
That's right.
Yeah.
You did stand up.
Yeah,
right?
and I did not expect him to. Steer me in this direction. I was surprised when he said, "Oh, you've got to talk to this woman." I talked to her. I don't know how often. I forgot. He told me, but and I go, "Well, what is exactly that she does?" And he said, "Spiritual psychology." And I'm like, "Really? Okay." I don't exactly know what it is, but I just went with it. And I'm glad I did, because this has really, really been fun talking to you.
Oh, thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Well, you asked wonderful questions.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty new doing this, so I'm just kind of going from what comes up in my head. So
Good. When did you start your podcast?
a few months ago.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, you're my. I think you're going to be my 10th episode.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. It's just something I was kind of kicking around for a while, and I started, real slow, just kind of recording people on my iPhone, and just people I knew, and had sort of, because I had spent a lot of years sort of experimenting, trying to find how to live a better life, and it was fairly experimental in terms of that. From conventional therapy and psychology to body work and nutrition, and even I did some, which I found really fascinating, and I don't know, I would love to talk to somebody who's a practitioner of this, Reichian therapy, not Reiki, not the massage, Wilhelm Reich.
Oh.
And the best way I could describe it was that the practitioner would put your body into kind of you would yourself into an uncomfortable kind of stressed position. Let's say you're bent at the knees and you're bent over at the waist, and your hands are kind of hanging, but it's a little bit stressful on your body because you're trying to balance with, and then they massage these tension points that are created by your body being stressed. And what happens is the stored emotions that are in the muscles start to be released. And unexpectedly, all of a sudden, crying and sounds, really emotional stuff, and then visions almost that would happen sometimes, memories. It was really an interesting type of work. And I did it for a while, and it really helped. It really helped because I started to, because it's not just up in the head. It actually, I guess the idea is that you store certain emotions in the body, in different places. And however they figured, whoever figured this out really figured something out, because it was an amazingly, I guess, cathartic was really the experience that I had. And then you talk afterwards about what transpired and what you were feeling and what you were seeing and what was happening. And so then it became more conventional type of talk psychology.
Uh-huh.
So it was a two-piece thing. And I don't really know anyone that does that. I mean, I just sort of, the person I went to, I lost touch with. But it was quite extraordinary. So those kinds of experiments, just trying different things, different workshops, and I'm curious. I'd like to see what all the possibilities are.
Well, and how wonderful that you found something that landed with you, that felt
it was
helpful.
Yeah, it kind of blew me away. I didn't know what to. A friend of mine had done it in New York City, and he said, "Oh, you should try this." And I go, "All right, what is the? If you ever heard the expression contempt prior to investigation?"
Okay.
I was trying not to do that. I was trying to go. Somebody tells me something, maybe they're intersecting with me to tell me this because I should try it. So that I try to do that. I don't always do that. I mean, I can be as judgmental as anybody. So sometimes I will have contempt prior to investigation. But on those things, I got super curious about it. Like you were saying, what else is there? What is going on that we're not seeing?
So there was probably something within you that resonated with that idea.
Yeah.
It sounds like it felt very cleansing for you.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
And do you think it's had any lasting?
Yeah, I'm sure it has. I mean, like anything, it's all that kind of stuff, even in the spiritual, psychic realm, prayer realm. If you don't keep the muscle exercised, it atrophies. So sometimes I get lazy, like humans can do, and I don't do the work or the discipline, whatever, and I can get closed off again. I mean, I periodically have to sort of kick my own ass and get out there and try something new.
Well, then I think your podcast is a really great...
It's a good idea, right?
to keep you moving. Good
Yeah.
for you.
I guess that's the selfish piece of it for me. It's like, what else can I discover while I'm doing this? Maybe, I guess I'm still looking, which I think is a good thing. I think it's a lifetime thing.
They call this Earth's preparatory school. It's a learning experience.
Yeah, all day long, every day.
Gives us plenty to do.
Yeah, there sure is. I have to say, I really enjoyed talking to you. I didn't know what to expect. I just went with the instinct of my buddy saying, call her, and I'm so happy that I did. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. I'm so happy you did too.
Yeah, and thanks for doing the podcast. You don't know me, and I didn't know you, but you said yes. So thank you.
That's right. We say yes to life.
Yes. That was Glenna Lea-Citron. Really enjoyed talking to her, and delightful person. Delightful. My next podcast coming up is really cool. I think it's really cool. John Paul Crimmy, who does breath work, and I have taken 2 of his classes, and one I did a live class with about 60 people, and one was online, virtual. He was there, but it was, and it really is, it's about breathing and releasing emotions and getting in touch with your heart. Really beautiful stuff and very powerful work. somebody walked out of the class and they go, "Wow, that was like a year of therapy right there in that hour." It's really an amazing technique, and he's great at teaching it, and he's great to talk to. So I want you to listen to that next one, John Paul Crimmy, coming up on the next podcast here at the Exploding Human. And I really appreciate anyone who's out there listening to this thing, because I'm trying it out. I don't know how it's going to go, but so far I'm loving it. So that's all you can do, right? So thanks for listening. Bye.